As far as the NCAA has found, as far as the Big Ten has found, and as far as the Michigan internal investigation has found, Harbaugh has done nothing wrong. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden Ward Manuel wants him to stay.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Michigan Chatter on the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show. We have more Jim Harbaugh contract and whatnot to talk about. I am your host, Cliff. With me, as always, is Mac. Mac, how are you doing now?
I'm okay. That NFL swirl thing is making me feel like ice cream. As I said before we started the video, I would just like to put out there that I would now like ice cream.
Swirly, swirly, swirl.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Thank you to everybody for watching. Thanks for the 500 subscribers we have racked up. Really appreciate you guys subscribing, liking, commenting. We're having a lot of fun. Hope you guys are having fun too. All right, let's get into this article. This comes from Dan Wetzel, who normally we probably wouldn't quote, but John Bacon, who we do trust, has said that this article is essentially accurate, but had a couple of caveats, I believe, that Mac will get into in a bit. The article is Jim Harbaugh remains engaged in contract talks with Michigan amid NFL swirl. So, well, actually, he's going to get into it in the article. So let's just go through the article.
All right.
Even as Jim Harbaugh meets with NFL teams about coaching opportunities, specifically the Los Angeles Chargers earlier this week, he remains engaged in discussions with Michigan about a contract extension that includes unusual termination clauses should he choose to stay in Ann Arbor, according to industry sources. Now, this sounded really weird when we heard about it, but as I said, John Bacon is backing this stuff up. Mac, were you about to say something there?
No.
No.
Sorry. I had a thought, but it's okay because we're getting to it.
All right. Just to fill in. So yeah, one of the things going on right now, as Michigan fans know, Harbaugh is in talks with the NFL, the Chargers in particular, as we just said. And it seems to be a perennial thing. We discussed in another video of our thoughts on why that's a perennial thing, and how Ward Manuel may be the cause of that. Particularly now with the potential punishments coming from the NCAA, Harbaugh may be more interested in getting away from the Big Ten, although we feel that Harbaugh really wants to stay at Michigan, and the punishments coming from the NCAA are probably going to be minimal at best. But I don't know. That's just my own speculation.
Minimal at worst.
Minimal at worst. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. Minimal at best means they're going to be bad. Okay, so continuing on with the article. Specifically, sources said Harbaugh is seeking language that would grant him immunity from termination from any finding or sanction that could arise from multiple current NCAA investigations into the football program.
Now, the multiple that they're talking about is obviously the sign stealing stuff, which, again, sign stealing is not illegal. The way that the one staffer, Connor Stallions, did it was illegal, but even according to the NCAA, did not directly lead to a measurable advantage. So there's that. But they're also still investigating Burgergate, in which Jim Harbaugh impermissibly contacted recruits during a recruiting dead period. It has come out that that contact was actually, he was just watching a recruit be able to do push-ups because this recruit had gotten injured at one point. And so he was just showing Harbaugh, hey, look what I can do now, or something like that. He was healing up. Do you know something about that?
Well, as you can see, I think it should be noted too, that the blackout period that he contacted the recruit was not a normal blackout period. It was a blackout period specific to the COVID situation.
Oh yeah, that too.
So any other year, that time that he contacted him would not have been a problem. And I grant you that doesn't make it okay, but in some sense it means it's not that big a deal either. So I don't know. And now people are going to rip on me for that, but
probably
still.
But it wasn't, it sounds like the contact wasn't even to recruit him. It was because the recruit was being recruited by Michigan, but he had gotten injured. And so he was just showing Harbaugh, like, look, I can still walk properly. I don't know, something like it was something along those lines.
Yeah,
I'm
he
pretty
was
sure
he
that's what
was
it
showing
was.
him his workout. He was checking up on him
Yeah,
to see how his workouts were going. I know that much for sure.
yeah. Okay, yeah. So that was that. It should also be noted, not to just start pointing the fingers at other programs, Alabama, but as much as we love Nick Saban, they did host a recruit that Michigan was after during the bowl season, which is a recruiting dead period. And they hosted him very publicly. There is video of it. That was a violation, as far as we know. So,
So there's that.
anyway, so there's that. Moving on.
Moving on. Harbaugh is also seeking a delay in the start date of the new contract to maintain a lower buyout that NFL teams would have to pay to Michigan to hire him away. The buyout in his current contract dropped from 2.25 million to 1.5 million on January 11th. Michigan is seeking that to increase to about $4 million in a new deal. Harbaugh has sought to have the new deal not start until February 15, thus maintaining the lower and more favorable buyout number until after the NFL hiring cycle has concluded.
Which makes sense if Harbaugh feels the need to leave Michigan, given everything that we talked about in the other video with Ward Manuel, then he's going to want to make it as easy as possible for him to leave. So,
Mhm.
yeah, duh. Of course, he's going to want this new buyout to not take effect until after NFL teams would have already told him no, basically.
Right. And that
That
doesn't
just makes sense.
it doesn't necessarily mean that he is definitely going to the NFL either. It
Mm-mm.
just means he's a smart guy and he knows that he needs to get things set up so that he has options. If there's
Yes.
one thing being a quarterback teaches you, it's how to look for options and how to track your options and how to target your options. Right?
And then
I
how
mean,
to
that's
throw the football to your
how to throw
options.
the yeah. I mean, that's a key point in quarterback mentality, which he
Hmm.
still has. So it makes sense that he would organize this in such a way to make to keep his options open. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean that he's leaving. It just means that he's a smart enough guy to know to keep his options open and how to maintain that situation.
Yeah, which I think you said it, but that again, that doesn't even mean that he even wants to leave. It
Right.
literally could just be like, okay, if I have to, then I want to make sure that I can get another job.
Right.
That's as simple as it is.
Yeah. We're gonna conclude. Okay, Harbaugh is seeking a matrix of fines be spelled out if there are any future NCAA violations, as well as prohibiting the school's athletic director from firing him for cause,
For cause.
and instead having that decision, should it ever arise, rest in a three-member arbitration panel, sources said. Okay, Mac. So several of the Harbaugh haters are jumping on that and saying, "Oh, well, if he didn't have anything to hide, if he didn't do anything wrong, he wouldn't look to be, making sure they can't fire him for cause."
It doesn't matter. Um he may okay, he didn't, as far as we know, as far as the NCAA has found, as far as the Big Ten has found, and as far as the Michigan internal investigation has found, Harbaugh has done nothing wrong. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden Ward Manuel wants him to stay, because this is kind of a smokescreen for the real situation, in my opinion. This is what I think is going on. Again, not journalists.
Mhm.
This is a smokescreen for what I think is really going on. What I think is really going on is the beef we talked about between Jim Harbaugh, Ward Manuel, and Jim Harbaugh versus the NCAA in the last video that we just recorded. So, just a quick recap. We think it comes down to money. I think it comes down to money. Harbaugh wants the players to be paid, and he also wants the boosters to contribute to the NIL. If Michigan boosters start contributing to NIL, that takes money away from Michigan's athletic department, which is Ward's job. Ward Manuel is trying to keep that profit coming, which makes
Mhm.
sense. That's fine. But that could mean that Harbaugh represents a direct threat to Ward Manuel's job, which means even if Harbaugh didn't do anything wrong here, he doesn't want Ward Manuel to try and stretch the for cause portion of this to try and include something that might be a technicality to try and get Harbaugh out of there anyway, on the off chance that the players do end up getting paid in the capacity that Harbaugh wants, because
Mhm.
that would end up getting Ward Manuel into a lot of trouble. And he doesn't want that, obviously.
Right. So you get the three-member panel so that Ward Manuel can't just, unilaterally on his own make a decision. Now it has to go to
Yeah.
this panel so that, like you said, so that Ward can't just be vindictive and get him out of there.
Now my thing is though, if I'm assuming this 3-member arbitration panel would probably be made up of regents. I'm assuming that Ward Manuel would not be on it because that's kind of the point. I can't imagine that Santa Ono would be on it because,
Hmm.
again, I feel like that's kind of the point,
Right.
to avoid bias. It would come down to the regents. The regents are still probably going to want to side on behalf of profits for the school. So I don't know that that
Yeah.
really helps Harbaugh as much as he thinks it does. Although it does throw technically 2 more roadblocks in the way of them being able to get rid of Harbaugh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see if that is like a jury of your peers kind of thing, or if it's a
yeah.
complete third party arbitration panel.
Hmm.
And then also, just to go back, that matrix of fines, I think, is a good idea too, because then it's everything has been detailed out. This is all you can do and no further, so that they can't just keep tacking things on if things get out of control.
What is that?
Which
Matrix
makes
of
sense to
fine. What
me.
is that even? I don't understand what that means.
It basically is detailing out, if this, then this. So if this happened, then
Oh,
this is the penalty. If this happened, this is the penalty. So it
okay.
keeps Ward from saying, well, yeah, but you also, wore green shoelaces. And I don't like that. So
Okay, that makes more sense. But
yeah.
also, this just came to me too. He, I think this is what it said is if there's any potential punishment coming from the NCAA, he wants protections from that.
Hmm.
Um, the NCAA, we've already seen the Big Ten manufacture um, evidence, manufacture evidence to get Jim Harbaugh in trouble. We're going to go through that Big Ten document in another video, but one of the parts that it said was Tony Petitti told Ward Manuel that while the Big Ten themselves is not aware of any direct injury that has been caused to a player, other coaches and athletic directors have expressed um,
Concern.
concern that their player safety is at risk here, and therefore they're going to go ahead and move forward with the punishment anyway. I
Hmm.
have a whole nother bit of feelings on that, but for right now, basically the Big Ten just said, well, the other coaches and athletic directors said that they're worried about it, so we're just going to suspend you. The
Yeah.
NCAA could do the same thing. The NCAA could say, like, oh, well, the Pac-2 or the ACC or the SEC, all of it is like, they don't like that they're scheduling games against you. They're not going to do it because, they're worried about their player safety. So we're just going to go ahead and hand down a punishment anyway. Like if
Right.
that happens, there doesn't even have to be evidence at that point. They could just punish Michigan, and if Harbaugh doesn't have this clause in there to protect him, then Ward Manuel could, because he doesn't like Harbaugh, as far as we know, is from what
Hmm.
we've seen from this stuff coming out. He could just unilaterally say, "Yeah, well, Harbaugh, you're gone because look, for cause, boom."
Right. All right. I'm going to jump over this paragraph because it's just stats. The
Mhm.
next one, Michigan has already offered to make Harbaugh the highest paid coach in college football via a guaranteed 6-year deal worth $11.5 million annually. There would be additional performance based bonuses. I'm not sure if that's the one that they've said didn't actually happen now.
That
But
was a
either way, there
that
was another contract, I think, that offered him some money there.
okay. Was there
Wasn't
another?
there?
Because
Or
we did just
were they
go
both
over.
rumors? Because the $120 million one was apparently completely manufactured out of the air by word manual. It never actually happened.
Yeah,
So I don't know if this
I
one is referring to that also.
I don't know, 11.5 million annually. That's
At
probably
six.
just the guaranteed. Yeah, that's just the guaranteed portion. So it could be that with performance-based bonuses and stuff like that, that is actually the $120 million deal
Yeah,
that Ward Manuel was talking about. That apparently isn't true.
isn't true. Yeah.
It
Okay,
doesn't
so
exist.
while the financial terms between the coach and the school are either fully or mostly ironed out, the termination language remains a sticking point. Harbaugh and the football program are currently the subject of multiple NCAA infraction cases. Well, okay, so let me jump back then. I think it was John Bacon that said that this is the part that it's true, but there was a caveat to it, wasn't it? That it had the does the contract exist or not at this point? Because I think the deal is that the contract has not been given to Harbaugh. They haven't given him anything to sign.
That's what I understand. I'm not seeing anything from. Oh, here it is. Okay, yeah. So, uh, according to John U. Bacon, he says this is from Twitter, his Twitter page. The Harbaugh Michigan negotiations are at an impasse, at least for now. It isn't money, plenty there, but the clauses. What should be covered by immunity? Example: Cheeseburger Gate and whatnot. Therein lies the rub. Stay tuned. So
All right.
it I think it really does just come down to those termination clauses.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't want to get into the level one violations right now because we're just talking about the contract. He served the suspension, which is supposed to satisfy what the Big Ten wanted. Um, Harbaugh has sought to have his contract grant him immunity from termination for any violations stemming from those cases. It additionally spells out any penalty he might face should the NCAA rule him responsible in any future case that would include specific fine amounts for any level 1 or level 2 violation. Now, okay, let me go to the next paragraph here before we talk about that one. He is also seeking to have any decision involving for cause termination, whether for NCAA violations or anything else, determined by a 3-member arbitration panel. Okay, so recovering this in the article, rather than the school's athletic director, a role currently held by Word Manual. Traditionally, for cause termination of a coach would be determined by his direct supervisor. The AD would still be able to fire him for performance related issues. Okay. The arbitration panel is a system used by the university's president. It is common in university executive contracts, but not with coaches, according to numerous college administrators.
And
Okay, and then
that's what makes it look so weird.
yeah, so he really is calling for something a special circumstance here, and the immunity that he's looking for, uh, I really believe is not an admittance of doing things wrong, but it already shows that the Big Ten suspended him because they felt that the players were in danger, and they only suspended him for 3 games. And the NCAA has now come out and said he won the national championship fair and square. Everything after, Michigan State on was fair and square. So it's kind of like, okay, if that was fair and square and you're not going to do anything else, uh, those are the games that matter. Well, I shouldn't say
Yeah.
it that way. It's not that those are the games that matter, but they keep harping on this. uh, the players were in danger, and yet they didn't really do anything to help the players, which kind of makes it look like the Big Ten and the NCAA don't really think it's that serious.
It's
But because of this situation, they might actually come down on him with something that isn't his fault
well
or his
that,
responsibility.
that's kind of why I feel like we talked about the conspiracy in the last video. That's why I feel like it's a smokescreen for the real situation. The real situation is that
Hmm.
Harbaugh represents a threat to the NCAA and Ward Manual's profits.
Hmm.
Okay. And so, yeah, I mean, with the sign stealing stuff, they said that the issue was player safety. Well, sign stealing is legal. The
Hmm.
way that Connor Stallions did it, the one guy, Connor Stallions, the way that he did it was technically illegal. But again, if you've ever taken your phone to a football stadium and taken a picture, that is what he got in trouble for. That is the
Right.
extent of the advanced scouting scheme.
Right.
So
And the
my
amount of intel that he would have gained was, I mean, pretty minimal compared to
yeah,
what they can already get through all of those other sources. So
the
it
games are
essentially
on
it's
TV.
it was against the rules, but amounts to virtually nothing.
The
I,
games are on TV.
right.
Okay, I mean Tony Petiti in that letter, I understand we're going to go into that another time, but in
Yeah.
that letter he even says like if you know where the opposing team's players are going to be, then you know where to put your players and that puts their players in danger. That's
But then
then
they
don't
didn't
watch
change
the
anything. All
game.
they did was keep Harbaugh off the field. That's it.
Yeah, that's
So they
it.
did
But
nothing to help the players.
right.
So it really makes it look like, yeah, okay, well, yeah, it hurts the players, but whatever.
But also, do you know people often talk about like, okay, why was Michigan playing a close game against East Carolina? Why was that game close? Because Michigan kept the playbook closed because they didn't need to open up the playbook to beat the Carolina Pirates, whatever they're East Carolina Pirates or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, Ohio State said the same thing. Why did they play a close game against Maryland? Because that was Ryan Day keeping the playbook closed. Why did they play a close game against Wisconsin? That was Ryan Day keeping the playbook closed. Yada yada yada.
Hmm.
Because they know that the other teams are watching them.
Right. Right. Yeah. Right.
They know this is happening. They already know, sorry microphone. They already know that other teams are watching them. So advanced scouting from Connor Stallions or not literally doesn't matter. I can go put the game on YouTube right now and watch it.
Yep.
And I can take notes. And I can say Ohio State has this one play where they run Travion Henderson out to the left. All you need to do is put Chris Jenkins out there and boom, smoke him.
Right.
If it's really a player safety issue, then sign stealing needs to be illegal. But it's not. It's
But
legal.
it's not.
But also, you need to consider what all does sign stealing mean because if they're stealing each other's signs, they're also studying film. They're watching film together. That's a thing that they do
Yeah.
to understand what the other team plays so that they can put themselves in the right position to stop it. Is that not a player safety issue? Why do we play this game in the first place?
Right.
All right.
But yeah, so all that coming back to you would want immunity because if Ward Manuel and Jim Stapleton at the NCAA are up to something, you want immunity to
Mm-hmm.
basically put an end to this whole thing.
Yes, because they're going
Um,
to probably manufacture something just to get him fired.
right. So he finishes off the article with the Chargers stated that they interviewed Harbaugh for their head coaching position on Monday. Yeah, and they posted it on Twitter for some reason. So yeah, I don't know. Anything else you want to add to that? I think we've covered it.
I issues have been made about Florida State recently, and the NCAA is hammering them with sanctions, and I think it's total crap.
Yeah.
So if anyone really thinks that the two of us are sitting here, we're Michigan shills, we're homers, and we're just defending Harbaugh because you didn't do anything wrong, it's really not that bad. There's nothing here, guys. There's
Hmm.
nothing here. It doesn't. The biggest thing about this is that it just doesn't make sense. I think that's the biggest thing about this is that every new piece of evidence that comes out, it's just like I don't understand how this makes
Yeah.
anything worse. It feels
Well,
like nothing.
and I want to say we've got the Big Ten document, and yes, they broke a rule. Connor Stallions broke a rule. The Big Ten document makes it clear Connor Stallions broke a rule. Jim Harbaugh is responsible, but I just lost my train of thought. But we get worked up about this because based on the punishment, it really comes down to nothing, virtually nothing, almost nothing.
Well, and
And I
I
lost my train of thought there. I was going to say something else, but
I guess I know we're way over, but
yeah.
I think that we're also at a point with our society where we want outrage. We want there to be
Hmm.
something where there is nothing because it's entertaining, I guess.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of people, especially in the age of social media, have been conditioned to believe that if you aren't as good, if somebody else is successful, or if you are just a failure in comparison to them, or if you didn't do as well as them, it's not because of you. It's not because your team isn't as good as them. It's not because your politician didn't run as good a campaign as the other guy. It's because the other guy cheated.
Right.
Because we're all victims.
Yeah.
Leave it at
It's
that.
it's frustrating. And I sort of get worked up about this one. And yeah, I know people are going to say we're just a couple of homers. You know, defending our team. And I maybe in a way we are. I just get worked up about this one because it just feels like so much nonsense. Like we
Mhm.
said, Connor Stallions broke a rule, but the advantaged game from what he did is this much compared to, you can't see it there, all of that they can do, and it just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, should we close it out there? You got anything else you want to say?
Yeah, but no. I don't think that there was any advantage. I mean, to say that Connor Stallions.
Okay. Well, we'll get into that in another video. We've
All
got
right,
that.
all right. I'm
We got
sorry.
that
I'm
Big Ten
sorry.
document video to go over.
Yeah.
All right, that's gonna do it for us. We got a little worked up on this one. I apologize. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking through with us. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think about what we've said, what you think about this whole situation. Um, and that's gonna do it for us. Mac, take us out.
This is Michigan Chatter on the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show.